Good evening, and thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight, we will talk about how to talk to your child about race and racism. My name is LaDonna Sanders, and I am one of the co owners of Belladonna Education and Consulting Services. For those of you who are new to Belladonna Education and Consulting Services, we provide educational seminars and consultation to parents and children to improve their parental capacity and improve the overall well being of children and families. A little bit about myself. I am a social worker who is also the proud parent of a 4-year-old. I have worked in the field of social work for over 15 years and have also provided some support to families on an individual and family basis through the family counseling session. I am the proud parent of a 4-year-old son and am looking forward to engaging with you all this evening. Ms. Bell, would you please share a little bit about yourself?
Good evening. I'm Miss Bell, and I currently work as a school counselor. I also have worked with families and children in the capacity of individual and family counseling services, both in a practice and in their home. I currently work as a school counselor, um, helping students manage their emotions and self-regulate in the school setting. And I'm the proud parent of a 7-year-old.
Thank you. A huge thank you to Calvary United Methodist Church for the invitation to speak with you all this evening. As we go through the agenda tonight, we ask that you to really think about what you hope to gain out of tonight's session. As you watch the video, we're hoping to be able to have you as a thinking partner. Please feel free to comment in you all's chat boxes and share what you've gained during the session or any questions that the facilitators may be able to follow up with you on at a later date. So first, the agenda. We've done the welcome, and we thought that it would be really helpful to start as a grounding for tonight's session, to give some definitions that we will utilize as the focus of our presentation for this evening. Then we'll go through it starts with us, what it means to be a role model and an ally, strategies for talking to your child or children about race and racism, strategies for supporting children of color, and then we'll close out with providing you all with some resources and some information regarding upcoming sessions and how to stay in contact with us. Race is defined as an ideological construct that assigns a certain race and or ethnic group to a position of power over others on the basis of physical and cultural attributes. So race is a sort of made up term. It was not originally a term in the US until about the 16th or 17th century. Race impacts every aspect of our life. It shows up in employment, in education, in data, and in systems. And the Census Bureau currently identifies 5 races: white or Caucasian, Black or African American, American Indian or Alaska Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander. Racism is a system of advantages or disadvantages based on race. Racism is racial prejudice plus institutional power. And the key to this term is about prejudice and institutional power. Racism operates on 4 different levels: on an individual and personal level, institutional, systemic, and structural level, cultural level, and internalized racism. What Belladonna Education and Consulting Services, we believe that in order to address this, that we have to, it starts with us. So in order to have the conversations, we believe that conversations like what we're having with you all this evening is one of the first steps to begin to change the conversation. We look forward to seeking out learning opportunities outside of your individual and family and professional networks. And we ask that you acknowledge and be open to admitting your own biases, confronting your own beliefs, values, and understanding of race, racism, and injustice. In addition to that, I think it's really good to think about what narratives you learned growing up, what experiences shaped some of your thinking and thought processes, and how you interact with people who may not look like you. Being a role model, the way we do this is we validate the experiences and feelings of others. Stereotyping microaggressions, such as jokes about a particular culture or race, can shape a child's view of others. We ask that you model how you want your child to respond to others who may be different than them. Be honest about what you do not know. It demonstrates vulnerability and creates trusting relationships. Silence can reinforce negative attitudes about racism. Don't be silent.
The next step in that is becoming an ally. Being an ally is more than being sympathetic towards somebody's experience. It's more than simply believing that everybody should be treated equally. Being an ally means that we're willing to stand up and act for others and ending injustice, oppression, and creating equality. An ally is someone who makes it a personal commitment to fight oppression and prejudice. And ways that we can do that is educating ourselves about different identities and experiences, challenging our own discomfort and prejudice, learning and practicing the skills of being an ally, and taking action to create interpersonal, societal, and institutional change. So, in talking to your children about race and racism, we understand that the conversation looks differently for each family. There is no one size fits all approach, but the earlier you start the conversation with your children, the better. And just some facts for you. As early as 6 months, a baby's brain can notice racial differences, including skin color. By age 5, children can internalize racial bias, such as treating people of one racial group more favorably than the other. And by age 12, many children become set in their ways or beliefs about race. Being silent or introducing color blindness cannot be an option. Ignoring or avoiding the topic isn't protecting your children, it's leaving them exposed to picking up racial bias mindsets and behaviors elsewhere, including social media or at school. So developmentally, and starting at preschool or kindergarten, children begin to notice and point out differences in people around them. This could be at the grocery store, at the park, at school. So if your child asks you about someone's skin color, you might simply say, "Isn't it wonderful that we're all different? How does that make you feel?" So we are teaching our children to celebrate people's differences. Oftentimes we shush kids whenever they're pointing out differences because we as parents may be embarrassed, but we want to really use these as teachable moments. So if your child points out somebody's hair being different, you could simply say, "Yes, that person's hair is different from your hair. Let's learn about different hair types or textures today." Be open and let your child know that you're open to answering any questions that they may have. Children understand the concept of fairness. So when we're talking about racism, we're talking in terms of things being fair or unfair and how people are treated unfairly based on their race or skin color or ethnic group. You want to introduce diverse characters through books, watching television shows and movies, arts. You could try different foods from other cultures. Then at the grade school level, it's important to start having a dialogue specifically targeted about race, diversity, and racism. You want to start introducing your child to diverse cultures and people. You want to talk about the history and experiences of African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, and others. You want to explore any stereotypes or racism that they may see in the media or on social media. And you want to really begin to have conversations about how we stand up to the injustices that we may witness. Oftentimes, we call this being an upstander. If your child makes a comment or asks questions about race-based incidents or something that they have watched or read, you want to talk about openly how they felt about those situations or why they think a certain way. Make sure that before you respond, you're getting the full picture of what their perspective is so that you can give an appropriate response. And then at the secondary level, it's important to continue to have conversations about race, but it's also developmentally appropriate to start having conversations about police brutality and how they can stand up for others. At this age, you might have to do some probing and asking because it's not natural for them to be forthcoming with information. Discuss openly and allow them the space and time to process things that they've seen or heard. You want to make sure you correct any misinformation that they may have. And if you witness your child engaging in racial bias behaviors, speak up. Ask and inquire about their beliefs about a particular group which they've expressed bias against. And remember, no matter the age, it is definitely okay to say, I'm not sure, or can I research that or explore that topic further and come back to you to discuss it.
Strategies for supporting children of color. It's really important to affirm for children of color that their skin, hair, and facial features are beautiful. This can help build confidence in the way that they look. Surrounding your child at home with books, toys, pictures, and cultural artifacts, as Ms. Bell mentioned, that feature people of color can lead to improved problem-solving skills, improved behavior in school, and a greater ability to remember facts and information. Again, explore books and media focused on Black leaders can help support a positive racial identity. Acknowledge and discuss when they communicate they've been treated unfairly or experienced racism. Secondary age tweens and teens is when we typically have the talk. And that talk occurs differently in households of people of color. Typically, it's about how to interact with police when your parents are not present. It is about how to respond in situations where Black men or women can be perceived as the aggressors. So making sure that you are aware of the differences in the conversations that are happening in Black homes, and be able to ask any of your colleagues or peers about what that conversation entails and how to support each other when those conversations come up.
So tonight we wanted to leave you with some resources. So some books or media for children. Talking about the ABCs of Black History by Rio Cortez, or Intersection Allies, We Make Room for All by Chelsea Johnson, are great books to explore the history of African Americans and other cultures that may be experiencing racial bias. Intersection Allies talks about how we make room and stand up for all, not just African Americans. The Sesame Street Workshop has really done a good job in the last couple of months of making developmentally appropriate materials for preschoolers and kindergartners. If you're looking for books for school-age children, authors like Jacqueline Woodson or Kwame Alexander or Nick Stone are great. There's a website called Learning for Justice that has information and lessons regarding racial and social justice, and then the Conscious Kid website and social media. And then some adult resources, reading books like White Fragility, or So Do You Want to Talk About Race, or listening to the raceconscious.org podcast are great resources to continue this conversation.
On behalf of Belladonna Education and Consulting Services, we would like to thank you all for joining us and watching this video this evening. Here on the screen, we have the best ways to contact us via email or social media. And then we have the flyer to the right for our upcoming parenting education class being held on April 14th, and it's titled Successful Co-Parenting 101. Again, thank you all so much for joining us, and we look forward to working with you again in the future.
And we do recognize that we had to re-record our webinar from the other evening. But if you wish to continue to have conversations, please connect with each other or with Belladonna so that we can continue to have the rich discussions that followed from the other night. Thank you.